It just shows your commitment. Panel Prarambhadalli, usually this is all talk, but I thought I should start with a sanna ಒಂದು ಸಾಂಗ್. ಕೆರೆಯ ನೀರನ್ನು ಕೆರೆಗೆ ಚೆಲ್ಲಿ ವರವ ಪಡೆದವರಂತೆ ಕಾಣಿರೋ. This, for probably those who are not aware of, let's say, Carnatic music, I will give you an introduction. That was sitting in the city's culture spot, Malleshwaram. I thought this is sort of appropriate to start. It's by the 16th century composer, Saint Purandaradasa, often considered the father of Carnatic music. He had many other metaphorical meanings to this. We are not getting into that. But the line indicates Kereya Neeranu Kerege Challi. And for that, in case there are non-Kannadiga audiences, Kere is lake. There are so many definitions. That word itself is subjective. Tank. I mean, the whole, in the spectrum we have many words. And each is a beautiful extension of the language. But I think, taking liberties of that, I might say that the idea, the work of this panel is to help us citizens, Praja, in understanding how the Kere Neeru stays in the Kere, and we learn how to work together to conserve it. On the panel, besides the two scholars, besides the two eminent people who have already been introduced, I'm going to quickly tell the audience who is here. And, unlike people who think that, okay, we should get over with introductions fast, I always believe that we should have at least a few minutes devoted to a crisp background, because then it sets the context. We understand who's coming from which place. So please allow me. We have a lawyer, we have a bureaucrat, we have an academic, and besides, a very fearless gentleman such as UV Singh Gauru, who we all have heard about his work, but it's such a privilege to be in all their midst. So, apart from Dr. UV Singh and Dr. TV Ramachandra, Professor Rajiv Gowda, to my left, ex-member of Parliament, that is Rajya Sabha from Karnataka. He holds a PhD in Public Policy and Management from the Wharton School. He has been a Carnegie Council Global Ethics Fellow. But most recently, and that's the reason why when Rajiv walked in, people were saying, oh, congratulations, sir. So if you have missed that news buzz, so to speak, he was appointed the Vice Chairman of the State Institute for Transformation of Karnataka, which is our own state's Niti Ayog. Congratulations, Rajiv. That basically means that Professor Rajiv Gowda has a cabinet minister rank. So, in case you're missing a minister on the panel, we just thought we would have it covered. And this gentleman who most of you know, civic activist, so committed. I have shared many times a chair with him on a couple of juries of the Nama Bangalore Foundation as well. Has been a civic activist for the past 2 decades, founding member of the Bengaluru Praja Vedike, which is bringing us this program. He was a core member in Janagraha, also one of the founders of Citizens Action Forum, that is a CAF. I have always found it very enriching to talk to him about Bengaluru city, the issues, because he's been right there in the front, tackling issues like water, property tax, BBMP, so many other things, and very, very inspiring for particularly the city's young to see that age is never a counter for taking on issues like these. We have a Vakilaru in our midst, and somebody who's been very actively involved. In fact, Preeti and Krishna Panyam yesterday were saying about how, during the Sankey issue recently, it was a lot of support from him. Smaran Shetty graduated from NUJS Kolkata, holds a master's degree from Columbia University, founding partner at Catalyst Law, and undertakes a wide range of environmental litigation. He appears before the High Court and NGT, that is the National Green Tribunal. for a broad range of environmental matters. Please join me in welcoming Smaran. We have somebody who is right at the center of it, and it's wonderful that she has come here to listen to us, to also share what her department is doing. Preeti Gehlot avaru, Special Commissioner Lakes, Brihad Bangalore Mahanagara Palike. Welcome, Preeti. Couple of house rules, and then we can get these out of the way. One is that here we are expecting, and that too, of given all your collective experience and interest in learning how to really be a part of the city's growth, that this is there's not meant to be a questioning, blaming, hostile thing, but something where we can probably understand at a deeper level. The team has made sure that there have been slips that have been passed on so that we make constructive use of time. I'm also going to time myself and the panel. So if we can just indicate, Preeti, we have about 45 minutes from here. Yeah, like Professor Ramchandra says, we'll assert our hakku. So it's 2 minutes to 12 o'clock. So till 12:45 we can go on. I don't necessarily want to leave the questions to the end. That never serves a purpose. So we will see places where we can actually keep going back and forth. So you will pass on to me the questions which have come from the audience. Mukunda avare nim idrinda I will start, because I think the citizen's voice counts first. You see, there's always I feel a conflict from what a citizen wants for a lake to what is good for a lake. Sankine togodi. This morning I had a message on Facebook. One gentleman, many of us know him, a Malleshwaram person. He said, you should bring up one question. Benches ella tegid hakbittidare on the Sankey thing. And the concrete or the development of the Sankey environment, which many people, on the other hand, old timers have refused to now come to Sankey because they feel this is going to kill water bodies. So there's always a thing about this dilemma. As an activist, whose priorities have you put first?
ನನ್ನ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಲೇಕ್ಸ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಯೋಚನೆ ಮಾಡಿದರೆ we should first and foremost think of retaining the water there, and that should be a part of the ecosystem. The other things like recreation, entertainment, and all these things have become secondary. That should not be the primary objective. I've seen a lot of people, what you said is right, that a lot of people do demand that it should be for walking, jogging. True, let it be. No, I'm not saying no. But the top priority should be to see that you retain the lake as a part of the water system of Bengaluru. That was what it was meant to be earlier, and it should be retained. That is very, very, very important according to me.
So I'd like to ask Professor Ramchandra the same extension of this. That is the human-centric, environment-centric approach. In your presentation, sir, you gave a lot of examples how you're making it happen in IISC, so you're literally walking the talk. But outside IISC, given extremely urban and huge apartments coming up, the kind of areas, is it really practical? What's the kind of energy it takes for an average citizen, you think, in the midst of their daily commute, the kind of work to make for trees happen, lakes happen, and maintain and preserve them?
See, when, of course, I work in China also. Essentially when lakes and open spaces are there, that is essentially for relieving your stresses. When you have to relieve stress, you don't have to have a concrete path and all those things. When you walk in nature, in a barefoot, you get a medicinal treatment also. That's where earlier people used to say, wherever you walk, make sure there are no contaminants. Soil and our feet should go together. Okay, that's the first thing. If that is the case, I don't want jogging path. I want the the integrity of the lake is maintained. When physical integrity is maintained, naturally you will have the proper system in place, nature in place. Second thing is chemical integrity is equally important in urban system where the sewage is getting in, industrial effluents in a midnight. You know, we have people who send through the tanker and they discharge it. They do chamatkars in the midnight. So, and they are, as per the Water Act and Environment Act, they have to be handled actually. You know, polluter pays principle is there. And why are we not zero discharge? But we are giving red carpet. When they pollute the lake, we give more, this one, we say that. Third thing, you talked about apartment. Apartment can come, but not in the lake. The buffer region of the lake has to be not on Rajakalway. If that is happening, that is a tragedy. Look at Uttarahalli Lake. Yesterday's report says that how a builder is restricting the people taking a walk in the thing. People have right to use the lake. Recreation service is as good as the food and other services provided by the ecosystem. We cannot deprive them. But I would appreciate if they enjoy the nature in a natural way than in an artificial or with artifacts. The benches and all for the lost benches of my era. The today's era requires the sensible people who are the front runners to maintain the ecosystem integrity.
Thank you, Professor. Iga, if you are talking about sensible people, Rajiv, I'm coming to you, and you are going to anything remotely related to Sarkara, for example, I feel you are in a greater position to feel that. Let's think about correcting wrongs. He spoke about what's happened in earlier generations. Now, even government offices are many times on Kere lands. I'm told ISRO. I don't quite know which of the lakes it is, but then as reputed a national and international organization such as ISRO is sitting on a lake. Likewise with so many of these bodies. Secondly, the Chief Minister, Shri Siddaramaiah avaru, 3,400 crores plan promise ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ to revive lakes, to maintain lakes, and you are the man in that setting. Now this is, you know, how realistic. Many people have already been very skeptical about this, saying that okay, what is the implementation gaps adana first nodi adak munche, you know, this grand declaration of budgets. But as somebody who's right there, please give us a sense of what's happening and the thought process.
Hello, namaskar. See, I would think that what Sri Siddaramaiah is announcing is also a declaration of political intent, political will. That is the first thing that needs to be conveyed and communicated to the larger ecosystem. That this is a priority and we are going to put some resources behind this. And that at the end of this whole planned, scientifically integrated agenda, we will end up improving the ecosystem, reviving and restoring the ecosystem. I think that's essentially what is being conveyed. Now, from a statement of political intent, I've been out of town. The 3,400 crores, is that for Karnataka or is it for Bangalore?
As a Chief Minister, if he's announced, I'm assuming this is for Karnataka.
That's just in case you got your hopes too high for Bangalore. Anyway, so it is something that's much beyond. Now, so what are some of the missing links in this whole puzzle, right? One, of course, is the discussion about what Dr. Ramchandra was talking about, that the agencies that are working are focusing on concretizing, have a different set of incentives perhaps, but more than that, they have certain patterns of behavior which are scientifically and ecologically inappropriate. So there's a sensitization, there's a lot of educational related issues there. There needs to be some integration across various parastatals, various entities, including urban local bodies, who have different responsibilities for different parts of the puzzle. If sewage is flowing into the lake, that is one parastatal's problem. The lake is in the hands of the BBMP. They have to figure out a way to make sure that there is some conversation and some coordination with the BWSS to prevent that from happening. If there is illegal dumping, like you pointed out, what shall we say? This also results in a situation where the police need to be brought in and some people need to be pursued. One of the promises that we made in our Congress manifesto was that when it comes to Bangalore, this fragmentation, we will move beyond it. We will set up some kind of a Greater Bangalore authority where all the ballast stations will report to in an integrated manner, and we will end the situation where one entity lays the road and the next entity cuts the road, right? Digs that road up the next day. We also want to focus on, what shall we say, when there's a point that is also made that somebody does the encroachment, somebody else pays the price, right? Okay, and when we say pays the price, one of the stark reminders that things can go wrong happened within a day or two of the government swearing in. That young lady who lost her life in that KR Circle underpass. Every time I go through that, I'm reminded of that tragedy, right? So these sorts of things should never ever occur again. So basically, we have administrative coordination, we have integration of scientific issues, we need political will and resources, and we need to make sure that, what shall we say, that we take public inputs. Where we think the scientific knowledge is limited within the system, we reach out to other experts with experience. So I think what I could possibly do is, be catalyst, to take from his law firm, be a catalyst and try to make things happen.
So how this process will kind of get back to this little more in detail, just so that the citizens, even individually or via their associations, how they can be a part of this process. Now let me come to Preeti. So Preeti, would you like to begin by telling your own personal thoughts? I mean, one is the personal and one is the office you hold, about the lakes of Bangalore, your own experience and thoughts, and what your department is doing.
Namaskar. Regarding the personal thoughts, I really feel that environmental related every single subject, be it parks or lakes or plantations of trees, all of these subjects require a lot of attention. So it's not something new which I'm saying today, or it's not something new to you, but it has to be reiterated again and again to the people, to the political heads, to the parastatals, to all the government organizations and all the stakeholders, that even though we have been talking about this for 30, 40 years, why are we not able to do justice to this, despite the realization that in the long term, when we talk about development, environment is going to be the major decider for us in future and for the future generations also. So somehow, personally, I've been seeing that so many things, people keep on talking about development, a lot of schemes are being announced, but somehow, we are ready to divert our forest land, we are ready to let encroachments happen for very short term benefits. So here, all of us are failing hugely, and I will not be pointing fingers, as UP Singh sir said, that there are decisions taken at a certain point of time, and there is a context, there are a lot of things going on. And even though whatever has happened in the past, we should start today. And that beginning has to happen, it has to be taken seriously. So lately, you all must be aware of the Brand Bangalore initiative, which the Honorable Deputy Chief Commissioner is driving, where there is one team called Clean Bangalore, another team is Green Bangalore, and now we have Sir also, who will be part of a major, who will be heading a major think tank. So, as a Special Commissioner Lakes, speaking from BBMP, I would just like to say that it's only been 6 months for me in BBMP, and I'm also looking at horticulture and forest sections in BBMP, and I realized that BBMP is only known for bad things. And I'm not saying you're wrong that pointing fingers. I've been inside, seeing it from the outside. I had a lot of realizations. Like a city, I was already in Ballari municipal city. There, the problems were probably X, so here it is 1000X. It is so complicated, like we don't have manpower, we have all the money but we don't have money. We have support but we don't have support. So it's so complex that BBMP alone cannot do this. And And if I just say that we are 7 people sitting on the stage, each of us will have to come forward, and it is to be driven by the political heads only. So I'm glad that all these things are being taken up. Sorry, here. So my request is that this is personally, and as BBMP Special Commissioner Lakes also, that so much is to be done, and there are people who are willing to do that. But then somehow we just keep discussing, and that meeting of execution and thinking is not happening. So that we have to do. I'm not pointing fingers because I'm also at the implementation end.
Right.
But probably I'm a very small person, and I'm just a cog in the wheel. The wheel is being driven by a lot of other people, so all of us have to come together.
We will believe in the power of one to make the difference, but wonderful to hear your thoughts, Preeti. Earlier on, Preeti from Citizens for Sankey, in her introduction, had mentioned about how when they approach, let's say, a BWSSB, then there's another department which is supposed to be handling another aspect, and it really seems that the departments are simply not talking to each other. And how can really this be rectified? I think we should spend a little more thoughts on that. But Mr. UV Singh, let's talk about the lakes in Bengaluru, the success stories, the case studies. If you take something like a Puttenahalli, I'm missing Usha Rajgopal over here, or Kaikondrahalli Lake, Adal Sandra, so many have been examples of how public participation has revived these lakes. Now, is this sustainable in your view? Because it again boils down to some people. I mean, if that locality happens to have people who have not just the mind, wish and intent, but the time and commitment to make that to happen, that area or that lake might just die a death or may slowly perish. So are we really talking about a sustainable model? What are your views on how lakes can have really a way in which they can flourish in a city?
You see, I believe in symbiosis. The symbiotic relations, because the man is the last species. And in that symbiotic relationships, nature is the part of this one. I'll just tell one small, before telling answer your question, about the Sankey. I stayed by the side of Sankey almost 20 years, Bangalore. I'm seeing Sankey since last 20 years, from 2002 when I joined Aranya Bhavan. From then, I stayed in the one house only by the side of the Sankey tank in the forest quarters. I don't know how many times this rejuvenation has been taken place of this Sankey. Starting from the forest department. I don't know how the audit is sort of things 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I forget in fact the counts. The last it has happened. And something that has happened at the time of, I think the Justice Venkatachula, he was the Lokayukta. At the time when he used to stay, I think, in nearby areas, and then he used to come for walk and all that. So he thought that there was some forest nursery and all that. He got removed all those forest nurseries, and there was a lot of public pressure that some apartment was supposed to come by the side of this one. Of course, I was also a part of this one, not to allow it. In that one, the last thing what it was been hanging, the last rejuvenation it was been happening, was that they wanted to close that other side also.
I see.
The Sankey tank towards the other side where there is the encroachment.
Right.
So one fine morning, almost throughout the night, there was some trucks, it was been coming and dumping there, this one all mud and all sort of things. And when I used to go walk and all that, then I saw that what it is happening. I was having the contact number of some chief engineer at that time of the lakes. So I asked what it is happening, ಏನಾದರೂ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ ಏನದು ಅಂತ. ಇಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಆ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ನಾವು ಇದು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ರೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ. So that I get slightly annoyed. because I used to say every day near about some 10-15 ducks and some sort of these birds, they come and they enjoy there, they sit there, they lay the eggs, they have the nest and all sort of things. Then I thought that if suppose that is met, this whole they will be get ruined. So I have contact with some of the citizens here who met us in Malleswaram. I just contacted them and they told that it should not happen any. Rather, they also wanted that there should be some sort of a solution. I told if suppose you wanted to make it, please don't close it, because there is this nature. You have left only the 1/3 of this lake.
Right.
The 3/4 is already covered. 1/3 is leave it for the nature. Let's lightly. So far they have not closed it. After that one, it has just exploded. Now, the point what you have pointed out now is the question. My particular response in that is that lake, for the development of the lake, there should be the consultative approach, number one, that the publics over there, they should be consulted that what sort of the model they require it, actually. That is number one. Of course, the funding has to be done by the state, because the public can't make the fundings and all sort of things. And after that development, I think the responsibility should be taken or given to in and out the public for the maintenance and management of that one.
Yeah,
because that is not happening. If you are telling about the Putanhalli, you are telling about the other lake and all sort of things. Yeah. I know the Putanhalli because that Usha, she used to very frequently send me the photographs and all sort of things, what they are doing and also. That is because of that only. The money that was for the development, it was being done by the state government. And of course, there is some problem of this. I think there is the slum people, they are there and all sort of things. Some court case is going on. So, that maintenance part, I think that should be done with the active participation of the public around the areas.
And how the participation really, in terms of granular, modular terms, I will come to Mukunda sir in a minute. But Rajiv, you wanted to add?
So just this morning, you know the Kaikondaralli story as one of heroic success. It involved citizens confronting encroachers and then reviving the lake. Now, I just had a petition from a resident of Kasvanhalli pointing out that this lake is now dying and that there is sewage coming in. There is that's what you've just informed me this morning. So, eternal vigilance just to keep the success story alive. And why and how are citizens groups going to be in a position to spend all their time doing this? That's the other challenge. Yeah. So we absolutely need citizen involvement and leadership and sort of custodianship in some ways. But at the same time, the government needs to step in and and make sure that these illegal activities don't reverse the progress over the centuries. Over the years. And that other point that you made about ISRO being in a lake bed and things like that, I think that was a previous paradigm where, when my father was speaker from Mulbagal, people would always come and say, let's turn that kere into a bus stand, let's turn this into a stadium. That was always, where will you find the land? Drain the lake. That used to be the main suggestion from people. But I think that paradigm is over, that era is over. And
if it truly is, and if really builders are not casting their eye on the lakes, and I will disagree a bit on that, but I shall leave that for now. Now coming to the citizen participation, and I'm looking at Smaran here. Not everybody is as fearless as Mr. UV Singh. I personally remember 2010 when I was reporting for a national news channel about how you were in the port of Belikeri in Karwar and what it took. Sometimes I think you were in disguise to find out how much of iron ore was being smuggled, and your report really turned the tables and saved the state in many ways. But Smaran, the real picture is each of us is really afraid of being an activist beyond a certain limit. I might care for my kere, but I don't want my name in an FIR. And we are speaking of a very recent history there. As a lawyer, I think even there are entities who are not yet, let's say, registered, and we are like, okay, then it should not fall down on an individual or a group of individuals. how does a citizen do her bit for the kere and still safeguard these elements which are on practical terms, can be possible?
That's a question. It's a difficult question. I'll answer it simply. I think the fear is very real and the fear is very natural. The only sort of comfort I can give is I have trusted lawyers.
Have trusted?
Have trusted lawyers.
Lawyers.
For the simple reason that the city is filled with a network of lawyers who are willing to volunteer their time and volunteer their advice. We've done that with Citizen Vasanti, we've done that with Praja. So have trust in some sense of the system. The system fails us quite often, yes, but it's the only system we have and it's the only system we can work with. An FIR is not a death sentence, an FIR is not an indictment. Right? It is the first step to challenge what the state has done against you. The second thing is a sub-part to your question is that vigilance requires attention to the process. Right? And that is exactly where environmental litigation exists. To question each segment of the process of why has the lake authority done this, what material was before the lake authority, what report was commissioned, who commissioned that report, was that person independent, did the body independently consider these aspects. So my one suggestion and my one request to people who are interested in preserving their lakes is be as methodical as you can in gathering that data and giving it to us lawyers so that we can help build the strongest case for you. It requires all of us to become fact finders of whether the right thing was done at the right time. And just have faith in lawyers. That's all I think.
An FIR is not a death sentence. Have your Vishwasa in Vakilaru and in the system. That is Smaran's, the gist of what he said. Before we actually move to Mr. Mukunda to answer the question on how to, to break it down. If you're saying about public participation, then how does this actually work out? I just want to ask Preeti about the questions part, and I'm also doing you have on WhatsApp, okay. Also a quick check on time, okay. We are about 25 minutes down and probably 20 minutes more to go. I shall check on that, but yes, Mukunda.
Let me try to be a little different, because for the past 20 years I've been working in this civic activism with due apologies to everybody in the audience and on the dais. The same thing we are hearing day in and day out. Every new regime comes, yes, they have got their own way of doing things and all that. But the system has not changed, and the net result is not there for the citizen to derive any benefit. This is the basic problem. The only solution to this, after all my experience, I'm telling you, is a structured user committee participation in the maintenance of lakes. Unless that is done, I don't think you will find any solution which will work for more than 2 years or 3 years. That is number one. Of course, as Preeti was telling, there may not be trained enough to understand the implications of being a part of the watch committee or the user committee. A simple thing, please let me just take about another 3-4 minutes.
Sure.
What needs to be done is, after all these years, there is no single list of lakes available in the city. Each department gives its own version.
Can you just repeat that line?
There is no single list of active lakes in the city. As Dr. U.V. Singh was mentioning, each report mentions a different set of numbers. And that's why what I want to suggest now to this assembly is that you first establish a website on the lakes of Bengaluru. Upload all the information regarding all the lakes on that website. And it should be open, of course, being a website in the public domain, it will be available to every citizen. Then call for people who, in their area, if they have a lake, they want to be a part of its rejuvenation and maintenance. and establish groups of say 8 people, 10 people, 12 people, request people like Ramchandra, Professor Ramchandra, to train these people in the nitty-gritty of maintenance of lakes. What are the things to be done? We are lucky to have people like Mr. Ramchandra who take interest outside their academic interest and then come out with all these things. And he is an internationally acknowledged expert, and having him by our midst, we don't make use of his abilities. I think it's a reflection on us and not on him.
Very true.
That has to be done. Once that is 1 minute, just I'll finish that. And after we do all these things, then the maintenance of lakes should be the responsibility of that user group there. And the government representative, in that committee there will be one government representative. That representative will only act as a facilitator to see that whatever permissions and other things are required will be obtained through their agency immediately. And lastly, you have to have, as he was rightly pointing out, the basic document for the existence of a lake is a revenue record. See to it that all these revenue records, how many lakes, 198, 218, 484 or less than that, we don't know. First do that and then upload all the revenue records into the website so that it is available. If I am buying a site, say somewhere by the side of a lake, I should be able to check there and see whether that comes under lake shoreline boundary or the buffer zone boundary.
Yeah.
If I do all these things and finally declare all lakes as heritage areas,
Yeah.
nobody, bar nobody, after this should be allowed to construct anything there.
No Lumbini gardens.
No Lumbini gardens, and there are many more ideas like that. So nothing of that sort, no construction. And as Professor Ramchandra was rightly pointing out, learn to live with nature in a natural way. Don't try to impose your concrete structures and all these things and make it on the surface a very attractive thing, but at the same, costing the community quite a lot. These are the things that need to be done, and then you will see the progress. Within 5 years, you will have all lakes developed.
I'm sure these are points that Professor Gowda...
I need only one more chance afterwards.
I will. I promise to give you
Don't forget.
that chance. Dr. Ramchandra wanted to add a point, I suppose. The audience questions have come in, so I'll take them.
See, I've been telling about China. The beauty of that country is, say, when I go and give suggestion, next visit in 6 months, it's implemented. That kind of thing should happen in our country also. Okay, and second thing, you are talking about the success of any rejuvenation or conservation would be successful as long as the local people are active partner in that. Look at Uttar Kannada district. Some forests are conserved because of village forest committees. Look at Jakkur Lake. Because of the active group there, the rejuvenation, and also they have issued the pass for the farmers to cut grass. In the process that constructed wetland management is happening, maintenance is happening. That is, and the other issue is, as far as this Lake Conservation Authority is concerned, I think it should move away from KTCD. And we need to amend I think all those amendments, what is done, we have to nullify that. The alteration of physical integrity and this one. See, whatever they think should benefit them, they will have that amendment. That era should end. And one other thing I have been insisting to the government is, let us digitize everything and make it available to the public. When that is made, no encroachment will happen. In fact, for your information, I am going to launch Bangalore Lakes Information System soon at IISC website. Just now I have done the Western Ghat information system where you can visualize the eco-sensitive villages in Western Ghat, not just Karnataka, and Kerala to Gujarat. Any village you can choose. Why it is ecologically sensitive? In fact, there was a question in the parliament also about that. So in another 10 days, I am going to launch lake information system for the Bangalore, where we have monitored the lake. All the data what I have compiled over the last 2.5 decades, I am going to make it public.
Yeah.
You know, physico-chemical parameters, including encroachment. See, Sankey Lake, there is an encroachment. Why we are not taking action? Because I am an influential fellow. If it is a slum, they would have removed it, but they have not done it. And rejuvenation is happening without arresting the sewage, not treating the sewage or arresting the encroachment. See, first and most thing is we need to be ruthless, remove all encroachment.
Yeah.
We need to send the message. No one has the right to encroach. Just because of one encroacher, 100 people get affected. You know, that has to end in our
Yeah, I think no encroachment should be allowed. That political intent that you were mentioning, Professor Rajiv Gowda, needs to factor this in as well. I'm going to club a couple of questions to Ms. Preeti Gehlot here. One is an audience question that says that can the government or BBMP allow the NGOs or public to execute rejuvenation of lakes with BBMP providing some assistance which will enable quick completion? The second question is mine, taking from what Professor Ramchandra has said, that if he is, as a citizen and as an academic, coming up with a lake information system, will BBMP actually work together, collaborate, take from the data, make it a more dynamic? Because I think the implementation side is here, the suggestion sides are there. How do you propose to do this?
Yeah, before Preeti says something, I'll tell you. Last time when I released the report on rejuvenation, efficacy, one of the engineer from this concerned department called and said, who permitted you to do the job? I said, who should permit me? Lake belongs to us, the common man. I have a right to go anywhere. I will do the study as long and remove the anomalies. This one. That is the thing. In fact, incidentally, that gentleman is from her organization only, where she is holding the portfolio. A lot of people give threat calls and tell, I'm so happy. Every threat call makes me to write one more paper or one more book.
Thank you for the question. Firstly, regarding the NGOs, so BBMP in last decade also, since last many years has been not directly, but I think there was a court case, writ petition in the High Court filed, and in 2020 March there were a lot of questions raised by the petitioner regarding the memorandums of understanding, being signed with a few citizen groups or private companies by BBMP. So this was there, but before that a lot of NGOs and civic groups and RWs had come forward, and they still keep coming forward to work with BBMP. So regarding this, one acceptance is there that we have actually failed in getting the best out of the resources available, be it the researchers or the experts in lake maintenance. But lately there is, it's not about not having a realization about this, but it's just that now we have started to draft various modes in which we will be now engaging with civic groups or RWAs or experts or scientists and various parastatals or private companies also. And we'll also be deciding and working on the modes of engagement. It can be a one-time rejuvenation, it can be a monitoring or supervision, which can be a year-long thing or a continuous thing. So we are working on it, and it's not that we have not thought about it, but this is something which should come out in a couple of months. So whatever is possible at BBMP's level, when it comes to monitoring and supervision of the lakes, we are taking that up. So in coming 1 or 2 months, we should be rolling that out from BBMP. Second thing regarding was mentioning regarding the website, which should have consolidated authentic data in one place. So that also, sir, we are working on, and we should be rolling that out within 1 month, and we have already started working on it, and also it will have a citizens portal also, where they will also be able to register complaints and also view the data which is being provided, so that if you think that this data provided is not correct, you can also come and pitch in there and you can give a suggestion. Third is regarding
The second question, the second question, apart from the, I guess it's a memory test. Yes. No, I wanted to ask you about how the citizens can approach BBMP for the, if they want public participation. I mean, one is, of course, including the dynamic information, which you have already answered, Preeti. But even people approaching BBMP, even as individuals, is there a way? I mean, is there a system there?
See, what I have realized is we are so short of expertise and people that we will not be able to do anything unless people come in and help us. So any sort of help is welcome. But the only issue is that help is to be organized, streamlined, it has to make some sense. Now when they come to us, for example, they say this like a lead now there is no framework under which I operate. Now there are other parastatals also which are a part of it. Suppose BWSSB is there. So BWSSB, okay, they will do their STPs after 2 years, what do I do till then? So I'm not able to answer. Then there is another person, they will say so much of encroachment is there that case went to the court, everybody will get a court stay. So I'm not able to answer.
As we would say, haath bandha hua hai.
No, I'm not able to say that because we should not be saying that to people. Then third thing is regarding when the lakes come, we are the custodians of the lake. But the owner, it is only for development and maintenance, but the owners are revenue department. So all the encroachment, we have to start a survey.
So in the interest of time, I'm interrupting you. So the various things that you mentioned, the stakeholders, revenue department, BWSSB. So this talking to each other, what can you do to make that happen?
There was a presentation by using sir. There has to be a single forum which has to have a political head, an executive head, an officer, not just one officer, different departments, different citizen groups, scientists, and it has to be taken till the end. It's not that you inaugurate something, you do advertisement and okay. No. You have to take it seriously and everybody has to take it seriously. Now, one thing, citizens may come, they come with a view, they will tell their expertise or they will tell about their experience, this is to be done. So I tell you, there were two presentations which were there in the morning. So, sir, the professor had told about all the scientific wala cheezein, it's mein hona chahiye. But then sir came. So sir was mentioning about role of the courts. When I go for encroachment removal, there will be humanitarian issues. Slums have come up. How do I remove this? And then political issues are there. So all these things are there. So in order to set it all right, we have to sit on one forum, and when we look at the issues of it is not just from the perspective of environment, but it is political, administrative, legal, and all those things are
sure.
I would like to respond to that
particular thing. Mukunda sir, please give me keep faith in me also, like how Smaran was asking. I'm just going to come to that because Mr. UV Singh also wanted to make a point. But to you, Smaran, one of the things that we also need to be aware of as citizens is that, let's say, the NGT guidelines, which, in case you can share a couple of quick judgments or things that we should be aware of, because that legal perspective is also so necessary.
Okay, so there are at least 15 NGT cases on Bangalore lakes. I'm not going to go into all of them. I will give you two or three important takeaways that I'm sure most people in Bangalore already know. One, under no circumstances can either industrial or domestic effluents be released into lakes. Something that BWSSB continues to keep a blind eye towards. In fact, I did a case in Anikal where untreated industrial effluents from pharmaceutical companies and pharmaceutical factories was being left undischarged into lakes. Unacceptable threat to life and ecology, number one. Number two is the question of encroachment and buffer zones. The NGT has, on the basis of what the RMP provided, has increased the buffer zone a little bit, and the Supreme Court has modified it. But there are well-established buffer zones from large colorways, from nalas, from lakes and other larger water bodies. The buffer zone depends on the extent of the water body in question. So the larger the water body, the bigger the buffer zone that needs to be maintained. Something I think builders in Bangalore have finally woken up to, and I think there is now a consciousness about. And this is something that I think local citizens can really pay attention to, because the naked eye can tell whether something is 15 meters away or 20 meters away. That's something that local residents should be vigilant about.
Right.
If you see construction abutting a lake where there is no buffer zone, or if you see construction eating into a lake by the government itself, please report it. Please get in touch with lawyers, get in touch with me, and we'll try and do what we can.
Okay. We are left with like 4 minutes from the actual given time to the panel. So, in terms of division, sir, can I give you a minute and it, and then to Mukunda, sir.
Thank you. Some very two or three points, specific points, I just wanted to make is, one is that this inventory of lakes, what it has been done by the Lake Development Authority at that time, is based on the revenue records. That 846 lake it has come, it is based on the actual survey numbers and the revenue records. There is no ambiguity in that one. Now the further exercise that could have been done was that these 846 lakes, how many they are the dead lakes and how many they are there the live lakes. That has to be identified based on there are so many methods for this one, because the survey number is there, in the village map is there, all the village maps now it is digitized, it is geo-referenced, everything it is there. Only the thing is that somebody has to go there and verify it, that what exactly it should be there. That near about 30 or 40% work it was being done in 2010-11. Same, I am telling. After that one, of course, it was been discontinued, maybe because of various reasons and all that. I was also out from that place. Now, that is one point. The second point is this Karnataka Tank Conservation and Development Authority Act, which is a special act that has been made with, notwithstanding any other act. So that means that powers that has been given under that one, that particular the 3 or 4 particular rank officers, that has to be immediately taken care of. Without going to the Tahsildar and all that, Tahsildar can be made the one of these designated officer. Once you appoint the one designated officer under that act, he is having the all full powers to remove anything for that one. And if he is having any sort of a grievance by somebody, they can come to the authorized officer, which is not yet nominated right now. If that is there, then the third stage comes the civil court, not the high court. Now most of the cases what it is I have seen is going to the high court directly. And there is the stay order. There is the stay order in case of the Balandur. There was the stay order in case of this Putanhalli. The court has given in one writ petitions that you remove the encroachment. Other petitions they have told that there is a stay in that one. So what the authority can do it. The thing is that the court has also not been properly told that look, this is the law, and under that law you have to give the direction. I have not seen any sort of a affidavit that has been filed by the authorities that includes this one, and that is the must, I think, for any sort of things. That is one thing. The other thing, third point is that you see any sort of the biggest problem what it is there, ingress of the sewage and influence.
Yeah.
Even the influence which I was manhandled and all that in this Nagwara lake and all that, by that it was not less than, without having any political this one, a corporator was having near about the 10 or 15 tanks. He was directly putting the affluents collecting from the industries, putting there in this Hebal STP, and from there it was going to the Nagwara lake, which has been stopped, and then all things it has happened. So that particular things that let the government make some sort of a policy decisions, that until unless there is no stoppage of the sewage into the lakes, that lakes should be slightly hold for some times for the development. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. So much of lacunae that can be covered the suggestions that you have given, Mr. Mukunda, now yours.
See, the very important thing, Preeti, you said that you are preparing a website. Kindly include, not merely upload the revenue maps, but also see to it that a survey is done of each lake. It is not going to be a difficult thing. If you just take the help of the local organization, they will be able to even sponsor it. That's not a big problem. You do that and you just mark it on the ground, the shoreline and the buffer zone line. You will immediately come to know what are the encroachments there. And see to it that you apply this stringent law and remove these encroachments. There are 3 types of encroachments. You run through it quickly. Government agencies, religious institutions, and some private things. All these things can be removed. There is no problem. Okay, if you say a slum has come up, low-income group people are there, provide them alternative places. You have got a slum improvement board. Please see that it is done, but never ever allow this state of anarchy and helplessness to run through the department and its decisions. That is very, very, very important, and that is what gives the citizens the confidence that here is an agency which means its words, and you will get all kinds of supports. I'm telling you it is possible to do it.
Yeah, all right. You want to respond?
Thank you, sir, for the...
You can take this mic.
Thank you, sir. We will take care of all these things when we roll out the website, so that's there. Second thing, sir, when I told about all these things, I think it's very difficult to compress all those things in 2 minutes or 3 minutes. So probably it came out wrongly that we are showing ourselves as helpless. One thing, sir, sometimes we are, but sometimes we are not. And the thing is, there is KTCDA Act, there are NGT guidelines, there are so many acts, KSPCB is there. So many acts and rules and guidelines are in place, but implementation is not happening. So I think that agency, that single agency, it is not BBMP at this point. Even though we can say that BBMP does it, but it is not BBMP who will be able to take care of all of it. It is a single forum which will have BBMP as one of its major hands, but other BWSSB, KSPCB, Fisheries Department, civic organizations are to come together on one forum. So this is what I was trying to say, and all these suggestions are well taken. So in fact, we somehow I told because so many thousand things are going on in BBMP, unfortunately this is taking a back seat. So definitely.
And you should not restrict yourself only
like
to...
us are always there, like Bangalore, Praja, Vedike, all citizens from Bangalore. Many other organizations are with you, madam.
We are already on it. We are already
include
on
us.
it. Yes.
No, actually you should go beyond the lakes what you are managing.
Yeah.
You know, all lakes in Bangalore should be in one place.
Exactly.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
In any event, we are doing it, but it's better if government can do it.
So before I took up this state responsibility, I was added to the Bengaluru restructuring committee, which has part of this as, this is part of the mandate as well. So going beyond the existing structures to figure out how to make things happen.
So regarding that, 1 minute, regarding that, probably the one problem, Preeti, your department will have is the lack of finances. You will not have enough finance. We have seen, as I told you in my first submission, I told you, there are a lot of lakes which have gone through 2 rejuvenations, 3 rejuvenations, and where that money went, we don't know. Number one. So that is why what I am telling you is that finance for the capital expenses required for one-time rejuvenation, I think we should approach the central government for this. Because after all, there are a lot of central government agencies in Bengaluru which are deriving a lot of benefits from there, and to provide a measly sum of 2,000 crores spread over a period of 2 or 3 years, I don't think is going to be a problem for the central government. Let them do that. And operation and maintenance, we have also submitted one to the restructuring committee, one proposal as to how the finances of BBMP can be improved. If BBMP has got its own revenue of 25,000 crores, can you not spare 500 crores for the operation and maintenance of lakes in Bangalore? We have suggested that. We have given you the practical guidelines as to how it should be done and could be done.
I think, that's a whole lot of suggestions, and I'm sure Preeti is taking note of this as we conclude the panel. One of the things which I certainly want to ask Professor Rajiv Gowda is that ultimately the government owns the assets, and how do you ensure, in your new role especially, that there will be an integrated plan system taking into account all the public participation and the various stakeholders? What's the plan that you have in mind at this point?
Just adding to that, Professor, this BMPC also needs rejuvenation. Bangalore Metropolitan Planning Committee also. Because that also MPC, that also has not been there really for quite some time. I think
So the MPC, just to answer him first, is an example of what happens when all these entities can only function with the Chief Minister chairing the meeting. Right? So what happens, I was a member of the MPC as a member of Parliament, but we met once in 3 years or something like that.
Sir, make mayor the head. Make mayor the head, not the chief. You see,
No. All I'm saying is, there was a suggestion earlier about having political authority right at the top. Unless it's delegated in some way, the Chief Minister has so much on his plate. It's like dumping everything on the DC in the district. Anyway, no. In the Bengaluru Restructuring Committee, there is already a proposal, I know that it's in the works, to focus on this integration and to ensure smoother functioning. That's one. I have been in meetings with Chief Minister Siddaramaiah where he has said there is no mercy for any encroacher. He was talking in the context of stormwater drains. He said anyone who encroaches, we have to, fix that. We cannot, have any mercy on that front. So all these things are coming together. And what we have seen in the recent past, in the last year, the floods that affected the city, have opened our eyes. And what we would want to do is to make sure that in our period, we fix these problems, and not just fix problems, but work together across academia, across civil society, across government, and create something much more than just restoration. We're talking about reviving the whole lake ecosystem. See, I come from a village about 100 kilometers east of here. The lakes, which are man-made, are essential to our agriculture. Once in 3-4 years, ಕೆರೆ ಕೊಡಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅವಾಗ ನಮ್ದು ಒಂದು ದೊಡ್ಡ ತೆಪ್ಪೋತ್ಸವ ನಡೆಸ್ತೀವಿ, ಏನೇನೋ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ನಾವು ರೈತರು. But basically, the point is, it is so crucial. And here, we've disconnected from the functions that lakes can perform as part of a city's ecosystem, vibrant city's ecosystem.
Yeah, that's a lot of eyes watching you, Professor Rajiv Gowda, given that you also have other responsibility from his marriage. That is, his wife's grandfather was Javaraya, along with Sri Krumbigal, I think, Garden City title. So I think that legacy is resting now. We're going to really conclude within a minute, but Smaran, in case you can really bring upon some changes in legislation, because ultimately there is so much that we can talk, but the driving force is elsewhere.
Two very simple suggestions for the time authority in the BBMP. Don't change the law has been changed enough number of times. Let us deal with whatever law we have. Two suggestions. One, make the committee meetings of the time authority public. This room will be before the authority and give you the necessary inputs when you approve or disapprove lake rejuvenation or development. These committee meetings are held in private, those minutes are uploaded belatedly, and we cannot go to court to challenge it. Make us part of the process, you will be in the room, make those committee hearings public. Second, very simple suggestion. The time authority, before it approves any development, whether it's road widening, putting a fountain, removing a fountain, has to call for some sort of DPR or some sort of project report. That project report is always commissioned by a private party. The report that is given is not independent or scientific in any manner. It is paid for by the person who is going to do the work. There is no independent material before the authority to apply its mind to.
Right.
Please, as an authority, make sure there are guidelines for who can give these kinds of scientific reports, who can give these EIA reports. Because unfortunately, the authorities are being fooled into giving permission. Change the way reports are given to you, change the way of who is in the room, and you will make better decisions.
Some excellent suggestions. I personally have also felt that looking at the room, and which is so full of good intent, in a way BBMP is lucky. Our adrishta is that Bangalore, and particularly this kind of this thing, is very proactive in itself. I mean, they don't really need to look further for how this co-working is going to happen. My only thing is that I'm missing a lot of the future generation participation here. Andre, most of the, I think, taking care of is happening by the senior citizens who are actually in that. But it's a great thing. It does. And I'm just thinking collectively, how can it be that we include more participation as citizenry? Mr. UV Singh?
No, we can work with colleges and students overall. There are a lot of engineering students, water and civil and other areas. So we need to integrate them. We'll have to create a movement of some other kind.
Yeah, certainly. And Dr. Ramchandra did mention that. You had another point.
Only one word, rather I can tell. This approval word that has been removed from that act. I don't know whether you are aware or otherwise. Under that one, in place of approval, it was been there in 2014. This KTCDA Act has been replaced by the clearance.
Okay.
That has to be, I think, taken care of, that approval until unless, because after that one everything get diluted. Now even if you go to the court for prosecute to somebody, some officers and all that, you can't do it. So that sort of things, there are minor things. Of course, there is no time now to replace, to talk about all sort of things. There are many things, of course, it should be discussed in private.
Thank you.
Friends of Leaks has submitted proposed reforms in MOU and the Vedike project for India. And one copy is given to
BBMP by Friends of Lakes? Right. Thank you for bringing that to the notice.
I need doctors, assurance that we will have representation from us, so that what she was telling can happen.
Sure. Yes, sir. I'm so sorry. I'm sure some of these will have to be taken offline after this. But Professor Ramchandra, I know we've had so many practical suggestions. There is, of course, some audience questions that had come up about flooding, even in places like closer to Kolar. What can be done about it? I'm not going to each of the panelists for concluding remarks because of time, but I certainly want you to speak about any thoughts that have not been covered yet.
ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ನಾನು ಮಾತಾಡೋಕೆ ಮೊದಲೇ ಒಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಕೋಲಾರ ಚಿಕ್ಕಬಳ್ಳಾಪುರ ಕಡೆಯಿಂದ ಬಂದಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಈಗ ತಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆಯಿಂದ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಕೆರೆಗಳನ್ನು ಅಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಮಾಡೋದು ಹೇಗೆ ಅಂತ. ಅದು 20 ವರ್ಷದಿಂದ ನಡೀತಾ ಬಂದಿದೆ. ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಣ್ಮುಂದೆ ಇದೆ. ಈಗ ರೀಸೆಂಟಾಗಿ ಈ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಸಿವೇಜ್ ನೀರನ್ನೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಕೋಲಾರ ಚಿಕ್ಕಬಳ್ಳಾಪುರದ ಕೆಲವು ಕೆರೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಹರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಕುಡಿಯುವ ನೀರು ಹೌದು, ಕೃಷಿಗೆ ಬಳಸ್ತಾ ಇರೋಂಥ ನೀರು ಹೌದು, ಮತ್ತು ದನ ಕರುಗಳಿಗೆ ಬಳಸ್ತಾ ಇರೋಂಥ ನೀರು ಹೌದು. ಆದರೆ ಅದೇ ನೀರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಗೆ ಬರುವಂಥ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ತಾಜಾ ಏನು ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹಾಲು ಹಣ್ಣು ತರಕಾರಿ ಸೊಪ್ಪು ಎಲ್ಲ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀರಾ, ಅದೇ ನೀರಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳೆದು ನಿಮಗೂ ಕಳಿಸುವಂಥ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆ ಈಗ ಅನಿವಾರ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಅದರ ಕುರಿತು ದಯಮಾಡಿ
ಅದನ್ನು ಡಾಕ್ಟರ್ ರಾಮಚಂದ್ರ ಅವ್ರ ಮೂಲಕನೇ ನಾವು ಸ್ಪಂದನೆ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಸ್ತೀವಿ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹೆಸರು ಸರ್?
ಆಂಜನೇಯ ರೆಡ್ಡಿ ಅಂತ.
ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಮಿಸ್ಟರ್ ರೆಡ್ಡಿ.
ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಆಂಜನೇಯ ರೆಡ್ಡಿ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು 2015ರಲ್ಲಿ ಮೈನರ್ ಇರಿಗೇಷನ್ ಡಿಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ನವರು ಈ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಹೇಗೆ ನಾವು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀವಿ, ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಏನೆಲ್ಲ ಇದಾಗಬಹುದು, ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ರೆಕಮೆಂಡೇಷನ್ ಸಜೆಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರು. ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಇದೆ, ಭಾರಿ ಲೋದ ಅಂಶಗಳಿದೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ತೆಗಿಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಟರ್ಷರಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇರಬೇಕು, ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡದೆ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಡಬೇಡಿ ಅಂತಲೇ ನಾನು ಬರೆದಿದ್ದೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡಬಹುದು ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಜಕ್ಕೂರ್ ಲೇಕ್ನ ಒಂದು ಉದಾಹರಣೆ ಹಾಕಿ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ವೆಟ್ಲ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮತ್ತು ಆಲ್ಗೆ ಪಾಂಡ್ ಎರಡನ್ನೂ ಇಂಟಿಗ್ರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಟರ್ಷರಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದು ಸಿಕ್ಕತ್ತೆ, ಅದನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂತ. ಆದರೆ ಏನಾಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪ್ಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಟಾಪ್ ಡೌನ್ ಅಪ್ರೋಚ್. ಈ ಪೈಪ್ ಸಪ್ಲೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ದೇ ಆರ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಕನೆಕ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದ ಪೈಪ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದು ಆ ಪೈಪ್ ಮೂಲಕ ಹಾದ್ಕೊಂಡು ಆ ಕೆರೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ತುಂಬುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇನೇ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಚಾನಲಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದರೆ ದೆರ್ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಫಿನಾಮಿನಾ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ರೆಮಿಡಿಯೇಷನ್, ಬಯೋ ರೆಮಿಡಿಯೇಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾಯಿತ್ತು. ಎರಡನೇದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೋಲಾರದ ಕೆರೆಗೆ ಮುಂಚೆ ಒಂದು ಜೋಗು ಪ್ರದೇಶ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀರು ನಿಂತು ಆಮೇಲೆ ಕೆರೆಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ಕಲ್ಮಶಗಳು ಇರ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಕಳೆದ ವಾರ ಚಿಕ್ಕಬಳ್ಳಾಪುರದಲ್ಲಿ ಮುಸ್ತೂರು ಹಳ್ಳಿಗೆ ಹೋಗಿದ್ದೆ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೀನುಗಳು ಸತ್ತಿದೆ. ಆ ಹಳ್ಳಿಯವರು ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಭಾರತೀಯ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಿಂದ 2 ರಿಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು ನಿಮ್ಮಿಂದ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಭಾರಿ ಲೋಹಾಂಶ ಇದೆ ಅಂತೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ರಿಪೋರ್ಟಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೂ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಅಭಿಪ್ರಾಯ ಏನಾದರೂ? ನಾನು ಹೇಳಿದೆ, ನಾನು ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ನಾನು ಜನಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ, ನಾಳೆ ಕೋಲಾರದವರೇ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಒಬ್ಬರು ಆಗಬಹುದು. ಅವರು ಕಲ್ಮಶ ತಿಂದಿದ್ದಾಗಿದ್ದರೆ ಅಥವಾ ನಾಳೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನೆಗೆ ಅವ್ರ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಬಂದು ತೊಂದರೆಗಳಾಗ್ಬೋದು. ಅದರಿಂದ ನಾನು ಎಚ್ಚೆತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇದನ್ನು ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನಾನು ಯಾವುದೇ ರೀತಿಯ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ. ಕನ್ಸಲ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಚಾರ್ಜು ನಾನು 2015 ಮಾಡಿದಾಗಲೂ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ. ಇವರು ಗೌರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಸೈಂಟಿಸ್ಟನ್ನು ಹಿಡಿದುಕೊಂಡು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೂ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನು ಪುಷ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಅಸೆಂಬ್ಲಿಲೂ 2-3 ದಿವಸ ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಡಿಸ್ಕಷನ್ ಆಯಿತು. ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಭಾಳಷ್ಟು ಉಲ್ಲೇಖ ಆಯಿತು, ನೆಗೆಟಿವ್ ಇದು ಮತ್ತು ಸಿಂಗ್ಯುಲರ್ಲಿ ದೇ ಅಬ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮೀ. ಬಟ್ ಆಲ್ ದೋಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಫೈನ್. ಬಟ್ ಕೊನೆಗೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುವ ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳಿಗೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಜನಕ್ಕೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ನೀರು ಬರಬೇಕು ಅನ್ನೋ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಯಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ಅವರಿಗೆ? ನನಗೆ ಇವತ್ತು ನಮಗೆ ಆಂಜನೇಯ ರೆಡ್ಡಿ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು, ರಾಜೀವ್ ಗೌಡ ಅವರು ನಮ್ಮ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯವರು ಅಂತ. ಇಂಥ ಪ್ರಬುದ್ಧ ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳಿದ್ದಾಗ ಅಂಥ ಕುತಂತ್ರ ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಇದು ಮಾಡಿ ಮಣೆ ಹಾಕೋಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಲೋ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಅವರು ನಾವೆಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಟ್ಟಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿದರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ನೀರು ಹೋಗೋಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯನೇ ಇರ್ತಾ ಇರಲಿಲ್ಲ. ದೇ ಸೆಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಇಸ್ ನೋ ಹೆವಿ ಮೆಟಲ್. ಅಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಇವಾಗ KC ವ್ಯಾಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಕಳಾಸಪಾಳ್ಯದ ಇಂಡಸ್ಟ್ರೀಸು ಮತ್ತು ಇದ್ರದ್ದೆಲ್ಲ ನೀರು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಹೆವಿ ಮೆಟಲ್ ಇದೆ. ನನ್ನ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸದಿಂದ ಅದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ನಾವು ಬೇರೆ ಲ್ಯಾಬಿಂದನೂ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದಾಗ ಹೆವಿ ಮೆಟ್ಲ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಿಂದ ಒಂದು ವರದಿ ಪ್ರಿಪೇರ್ ಆದಾಗ ಅದು ಹೆವಿ ಮೆಟ್ಲ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಬಾಬಾಸ್ ಆಗೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀವ ಸರ್ಕಾರದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದಾಗ. ಅಂದರೆ ಜನದ ಆರೋಗ್ಯದ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೇ ಯೋಚನೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ನಾನು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ 2-3 ಸತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ಆಂಜನೇಯ ರೆಡ್ಡಿ ಅವ್ರು ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು ಮತ್ತು ಬೇರೆ ಜರ್ನಲಿಸ್ಟ್ ಹೇಳಿದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋದಾಗ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ನಾವು ಎಚ್ಚೆತ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ನಾಳೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಮಕ್ಕಳು ಮತ್ತು ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರಿಗೂ ಮತ್ತು ನಮಗೂ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನಲ್ಲಿರೋ ಜನಕ್ಕೂ ತರಕಾರಿಗಳು ಮತ್ತು ನೀರುಗಳು ಬರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ, ಹಾಲು ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಬರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನಾವು ಟ್ರೀಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮಾಡಲೇಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನಾವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಕಳ್ಸೋದು ಬೇಡ. ಕಳೆದ 2 ವರ್ಷ ಒಳ್ಳೆ ಮಳೆ ಬಂತು. ಇವರು ಇದು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ, ಇವರು ಟ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಫಿಲಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಿಂದ ನೀರಿದೆ ಅಂತಾರೆ. ಅದು ಸುಳ್ಳು ವದಂತಿಗಳು. ಮತ್ತು ಇದು ಇದರಲ್ಲೇ ಅವರಿದು ಯಾವನೋ ಯುನೈಟೆಡ್ ನೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಒಬ್ಬನ ಕರ್ಕೊಂಬರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅವನ ಹತ್ರ ಒಂದು ಇದು ಎಳ್ನೀರು ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಈ ಎಳ್ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಎಳ್ನೀರಲ್ಲಿ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ? ಆ ಎಳ್ನೀರು ಮಳೆ ನೀರಿಂದ ಬಂದಾಗ ಅದು ಕಲ್ಮಶ ಹೆಂಗಿರುತ್ತೆ? ಇದನ್ನು ನಾವು ವಿ ಶುಡ್ ಸ್ಟಾಪ್ ದ್ಯಾಟ್. ಐ ಸ್ಪೀಕ್ ಫ್ರೀಲಿ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಕಂಟ್ರಿ. I speak freely without fear. I want people to have good and clean air and water and environment.
Yes, ultimately that's the bottom line. And thank you to each of the panelists. Dr. Ramchandra has made some really pertinent and strong points. And the thing is that this room and this panel is filled with, let's say, good act and intentions. The thing is how it'll percolate quite symbolically, literally, down to keeping our lakes properly, cleanly preserved for the next generation and for our own present and future. So I'm so sorry, sir. I think we're well past our time.
ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ. ಓಕೆ, ನಂದೊಂದು ಸಜೆಷನ್ ಇದೆ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಗೌಡ್ರಿಗೆ. ಏನು ಅಂದರೆ, ನಮ್ಮ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಎನ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ನು ಒಂದು ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಡಿ. ಅವ್ರು ಸೇರಿದಾಗ ಎನ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಜ್ಞಾನ ಬರಲಿ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ನಮ್ಮ ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳು, ಪುಡಾರಿಗಳು ವಿಧಾನಸೌಧಕ್ಕೆ ಎಂಟ್ರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾರಲ್ಲ, ಆಗ ಅವ್ರಿಗೂ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಪರಿಸರದ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಬಂದರೆ ಆಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಪರಿಸರದಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಚೇಂಜ್.
ಅಂದರೆ ಸರ್, ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ರಾಜೀವ್ ಗೌಡ ಪ್ರೊಫೆಸರ್ ಅಂತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾರ್ಥಕವಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎಜುಕೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಲಿ ಅಂತ.
ನನ್ನ PhD ಡಿಸರ್ಟೇಷನ್ ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಹೆಸರು ಲಯಬಿಲಿಟಿ ಲಾಸ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎನ್ವೈರನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ಪಾಲಿಸಿ. 30-40 ವರ್ಷ ಹಿಂದೆ.
ಹಾಗಾದರೆ ನೀವು ಕೋಲಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಕಲ್ಮಶ ನೀರು ಹೋಗೋದನ್ನು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಲೇಬೇಕು.
ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನಮಗೆ ವೆನ್ ದ ಅಶ್ಯೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ವಾಸ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಟ್ರೀಟೆಡ್ ವಾಟರ್. ಫಾರ್ ಅಸ್ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಪ್ರಾಮಿಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಅ ಪೆರಿನಿಯಲ್ ರಿವರ್ ವೆ ವಿ ಡೋಂಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಒನ್. ದಿವಸ ನೀರು ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಆ ಥರ ಒಂದು. ನಿಜವಾಗ್ಲೂ ನಾನು CM ಸಿದ್ದರಾಮಯ್ಯನವ್ರನ್ನ ಆಧುನಿಕ ಭಗೀರಥ ಅಂತ ಹೊಗಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಪಬ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ನ್ಯೂ ರಿವರ್ ಇಸ್ ಫ್ಲೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ ಟು ಕೋಲಾರ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಿಕ್ಟ್. ಓಕೆ, ಒನ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್, ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ಇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಲೈನ್. ಬಟ್ ಐಮ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸೇಯಿಂಗ್, ಇಫ್ the promise of treatment is not being adhered to, then the system is failing us and we need to fix that.
ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ನನಗನ್ಸೋದು ಈ ಅಧಿಕಾರಿಗಳು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಮಿಸ್ಗೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ತಡೆ ಹಿಡಿಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಮೇಲೆ ಇರೋ ರಾಜಕಾರಣಿಗಳು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅರ್ಥಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಎನ್ವೈರ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ ನಾಲೆಜ್ ಈಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ನಾವು ಅದೊಂದು ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಮ್ಯಾಂಡೇಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಾಗತ್ತೆ.
So many things. Professor ಅವರು ಇವತ್ತು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಕ್ಲಾಸ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. And I hope that sort of class continues for all of us, for the policymakers, for the rule makers, and the rulers, so to speak. And definitely we are taking back lots of lessons and learnings. I would now like to, after having thanked the panelists, invite Preeti and Kim Sukha, all this.
Closing comment. If the panelists are okay and if we can put together solutions that we find as a panel today, then we can make one document that we can probably hand over to the Ministry or to Mr. Rajiv or himself. That would be a good way to conclude this discussion.
How do we contact you for the next program?
How do they contact you? That's something which...
Put out our email ID, Krishna, if you can. And ma'am, if you can give your email ID as well, we can put it out so people can always reach out to the...
So we want to have a program. Like I was talking about the presentation to be made to...
So you can connect with the departments, that's what we did.
We don't have direct contact.
Yeah, but I think it's a very valid question because it's being recorded, then it's easier to reach the public.
My email ID is rajivgowda@gmail.com, RAJEVGOWDA. If you forget, there are 2 prime ministers in my name.
Preeti avaru kuda, in case you want to add about this getting in touch part.
So email IDs, I think BBMP email IDs are there out there already. You keep coming and you keep emailing, and that has to, I mean, it's not the way. So sir is here. He has to now ensure that these meetings have to happen, which has to come to conclusion. And the environmental thing, it is not going to be one issue. It has to be very comprehensive because one thing is linked to the another. When we talk about lakes, it is about sewage. It is about dumping solid waste. It is also about illegal encroachment. So all these departments will have to come together, and BBMP will definitely, more than misguiding, somebody said misguiding, why we, not we, but why officers try to misguide is because they don't want to take full responsibility. So they will tell, okay, ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಏನು ಇಲ್ಲ, ಸರಿಯಾಗಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ, ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. So that ownership, that accountability, everything is there in the act, everything, implementation is now, which is pending and lagging. And as ma'am also said, BBMP is very lucky to have all these citizens and people who are actually so interested that they are only coming us and waking us up again and again that this is to be done. So now we have started, we have failed 100 times, but we can start again and not fail this time. So thank you for organizing this. I thank you and the Namakere group and sir also for making me come here. I was not very eager because I know what happens. They keep pointing fingers at BBMP, but then that's not going to help. Then again, if not me, some lakes people will also start, dodging the questions. So that is not going to help anybody ultimately.
Yeah.
So
we have only acts, but we don't have ASRs or SOs which detail how those things will be done. For example, ASPCB.
Sir,
Sorry.
sorry. Sorry.
A big applause for our moderator, Vasanti Hariprakash.
Sorry, sir, we had to interrupt, but definitely I'm sure we can spend a few minutes after the idu. In fact, it's a very constructive what you were trying to say. Yeah.
The Namakere is an opportunity to dialogue with all the stakeholders of lakes. And our intention is we have started it here, but every group must take it up on their own and do it across the city with different stakeholders. And that is the intention of starting Namakere. In 2 hours, we cannot come up with solutions, but just ideas that can be put together. So please feel free to organize Namakere again and again.
Yeah.
Whenever you organize it anywhere else, we give you the banner.
Very helpful, Siddharth. Bangalore, Praja, Vedike, Citizens for Sankey, definitely we need to hear a nice round of applause because it's a beginning of the conversation. Thanks, Professor Rajiv, for the good words. And I hand it back to Preeti now.
No, we just have to thank.
All right.